Edwin, do you want me to go over how I got through like my earlier Melee career, what I was doing? I can try to like explain pretty hard where I was financially and what I did to get through it. Also, people might be interested in that in general. Chat if you want to hear it. So I can pretty much give you my firsthand account of what I was doing when I was there. I guess trigger warning for people who like can't deal with fucking trauma stuff. Close your ears for a second. So this was the last tournament I attended while I was in law school. All this time before, I was working a job or in law school or I was in college. And then this is basically the start of when I was not a student. Not a job worker. I had to move out of my house, and I no longer had like a static home. This actually got me off the ground for a little bit. This and NYXL. These tournaments both paid out about $1,000. That kept me going with rent and travel for a little bit. I did not have a sponsor at the time. Nintendo closed after Genesis, right? After Genesis. Script was the last one I had under them. Here I had a team that paid me maybe $200, $300 a month. I had maybe $10 to my name before Fireside. Fireside and NYXL got me off the ground a little bit. Don't park on the grass. Shoutouts to Aiden. I only got there because Aiden flew me out, housed me, made sure I took care of me. A lot of people who got their start in Melee with events, they get flown out by TOs and stuff. So that's a big, big part of it for sure. So Aiden flew me out to Don't Park. I fucking love Aiden. So thank you again. He saved me probably $1,000 there pretty easily. I had some spending money from Fireside, and I was able to at least get through that. My grandfather just died, so I couldn't really, there was no flow of income I had for me, and there was no way I could get money from my grandmother because I didn't want to take money from her because it was like the most toxic relationship on the planet. NYXL gave me about $1,000. That was my first big major win. That was in New York. I had a car at the time, thankfully, so I was able to drive there and drive back. That car would end up getting confiscated because even though I got it as a gift for getting a full scholarship to college, my grandmother took it back, gave it to my sister, then got me a different car that was leased, and then took it back because I refused to come home for a Jewish holiday she didn't celebrate. After we fought. Don't ask. Super Smash Out was a local. Won that. Cool. I had very little money to my name. And then I think Salami flew me out for a fight for SoCal too. I stayed with SFAT for the week. Probably had around $1,000 for my name from NYXL. Most of that was spent on this trip. Fight for SoCal gave me a little boost, but I remember I got like $200 for beating when I was a top 20 player. Westballs, when he was good, Shroomed, SFAT, Army, and someone else that I can't remember, another top 20 player. For beating those players, I got literally $200. That basically got me enough money to just buy food at Genesis, where I got 25th. I got cucked here because I lost to Axe game 5 last stock, last hit, and then lost to Mango for 25th. Axe was top 5 at the time. He got second at this tournament, and then Mango fucking lost to Magic like an idiot, and I lost to Mango for 25th. This is not the first time that happened to me. I lost to Plup at Big House for 65th the year before. So I kind of had bad luck with brackets. So it was kind of broke again. Then the Australian crew, I think it might have been Aiden again, actually, flew me out to Phantom. So the script was an MDVA tournament. I think I just drove down there. At that point, I was living with my aunt on her couch. She didn't charge me much rent. I just tried to buy food for her every decent amount. I hadn't started streaming yet because I didn't have a place to stream from. I think I'd met my ex by this point, and we were talking about potentially her helping me out so that I can have a place to stay to stream. Went here, did pretty poorly. Lost to Absent Page and Ginger. Got fourth. Not a great tournament. Got taunted on by Absent Page and doubles. Remember being livid about that. Didn't have that much money again. So I'm still teetering around. I probably had less than 1,000 at this point. I was probably pretty low on money. I went to a local or two to try to just get some money back, but it was pretty negligible. Luckily, I went to Phantom. I got flown out. Guy named Derek housed me for the entire week. Awesome trip. I wound up winning over SFAT, whose potential I'm broke, so he literally could not dash to the left, which was really funny. And then I beat Spud twice, game 5. So that gave me a decent amount of money. The conversion rate kind of cucked me. It was maybe like $500, maybe $600, I want to say. Came back from that, but was pretty happy. I no longer have a sponsor now, so I'm trying to find a way to monetize myself. Full Bloom comes around. I do okay. I get 9th. I think I lose to Kalindi, and in winners, I lost to Johnny, both game 5, if I remember correctly. I actually remember Don't Park was my first Melee tournament. I cried because the Kalindi reverse 3-0'd me for top 8, and I needed that to like play. And it was like probably one of the hardest like losses of my career. I remember crying after that. Was really rough. Full Bloom, I got 5th. Got second in teams with Rocky. That was actually pretty helpful because we got a decent amount of money for that. That's where Rocky had the 2v1 on Swedish and Zane, which was fucking crazy. Then Scarlet, luckily another Tri-State event gives me about $1,000 to play with. Again, I was pretty broke going into Scarlet. Got $1,000 from that. And then Pound, I was able to drive to, did terrible there. I remember SDing like 80 times versus Pew Pew, and then he tried hugging me, and I like pushed him away. I was like, no, I'm not hugging you. This is fucking bullshit set. And I think I lost to Johnny again, game 5. So again, I'm teetering around about $1,000. I think Polar Ace picked me up at this point, and again, they didn't give me much. They gave me like 500 a month, but it's enough to get to events. And they paid for some. I think they paid for some travel. I can't remember. Wound up going Paper Cut. This is a Minnesota tournament. They flew me out. Got a decent amount of money from that, and then Smash and Splash was my first decent major where I actually had wins. I think I beat Lucky and I beat Pew Pew U. Lost Game 5 to HBox, and then Leffen got upset, so I fucking lost to Leffen for 9th because apparently I just only lose to people who get upset all at this time. Had to spend my own money to get out there. Cost a good amount of money. I was definitely struggling after that pretty hard. This, luckily, Summit had flown me out. I campaigned for Summit around this time and started streaming. I spent most of the money I had to get into Summit around this time and then went to Summit. So obviously this Summit flew me out, and then Smash Summit 8 definitely was like huge for me. I think I won like a couple grand from there. It was my breakout tournament, and it kind of convinced me to go full-time Melee because I didn't have much of another option at the point. I'll explain why in a second. I go to CEO immediately after. I had enough money to get there from Summit. It was not a problem. Did pretty well there. Got some money back. Not enough to justify it, but it was enough that I felt decent. And then I started going to SoCal. And right around here is when I moved to SoCal. What wound up happening is I literally could not stand my grandmother anymore because she was blackmailing me over and over again. She basically kicked me out of the house 4 times because I wasn't going back to law school immediately when I wasn't mentally ready to. And at that point, very luckily, Jisoo actually just let me come stay with her for like a year while I got my shit together and gave me a place to stream semi-reliably from. I had to go to Gooms' house sometimes to stream because it was the only place I could really go when she had to work. That kind of gave me enough of a thing because she flew to events, and so as long as I helped her sell at events, she would like pay for my hotel and travel because she had a travel pass. So that is actually how I wound up getting to the rest of my events until quarantine started, actually. So all of this I was unsponsored for, and I basically had to. She let me share a 1-bedroom studio with her. She did not have to do that. I shared a 1-bedroom studio with her for a year. While we tried to get my shit together. And I basically had to sub-goal eating food during this time because I just didn't have the money to do otherwise because California rent is not cheap. So I had a sub-goal to get food, and then I had to use Patreon to pay the bills. And then whatever I made at tournaments was just the cherry on top. Luckily, she took care of most of everything else for me. I obviously had some. I didn't have any great tournaments. Shine was good. I beat Leffen at Shine. I beat Chudat. Had a close up with HBox. Lost to Johnny again. I lost to a Falcon. I lost to a Wizzy. I lost to Johnny. I lost to Johnny. I lost to Wizzy. I lost to Leffen and HBox. Didn't play. Lost to Johnny. Lost to Johnny. I just couldn't stop losing a fucking Falcon this year. This was bad. Lost to None. Lost badly. No, lost to None and Johnny, actually, I'm pretty sure. But for most of this time, I was kind of teetering on having enough money to go to events. I couldn't really afford it, but I tried. And then around here is when Panda initially called me after Summit 9, which Summit 9 gave me a nice little boost. Again, I got 5th. I beat Leffen and beat Hacks. But unfortunately, for reasons, we just kind of had a falling out. Not anyone's fault. It's just when you share a 1-bedroom studio with someone for a year and a half, that's just kind of what you have to do. Sometimes such shit happens, and I decided that it was unhealthy, and so I moved back to I'd gone back into touch with my dad at this point. It's the only real thing I'm thankful for my dad for is that he introduced me to my stepmother, who's the only reason I was able to do this after that. Because I stayed at her house. I pay rent here, of course, but it's not as much as I was nowhere near what I was paying in California. And she's not even letting me because she knows I'm strapped for cash right now, which is a blessing. But Panda picked me up right before Pound, but of course this is when the pandemic hit, and so travel wasn't really a thing. But from here on, I would say I didn't have that much of an issue. I never was rich. I was never making like a bunch of money. Obviously, I'm struggling for a lot for money right now, but from this point on, I never really had to. I don't want to see 9th here. I never really had to struggle too much from this point on. Around this time, I probably streamed 300 hours, 250 hours a month just to try to make ends meet to the best of my ability. Obviously, I could have diverted that time elsewhere, but I had a bunch of nice picks-ups. Ludwig had a bunch of big tournaments. Summit was a boost. The $5,000 money match with HBox, thank fucking God. I still don't know why they let us do that, but thank you to those people for putting that up so that I got 5K for that. A bunch of small things, and obviously now I'm still with Panda. That's kind of took me to now, where it's slowly gotten a little bit better. It's still not great, especially right now, because taxes are rough, but getting good enough. So that's basically how I got to where I am now. Panda definitely established a better baseline for me, for sure. They made it so that I felt at least somewhat comfortable to play. I definitely want to try to up how much money I'm making from the base amount. But to do that, I'm going to need better content. So which is one of the reasons why I've been focusing on like the tournaments recently and other things, because that's kind of how I'm going to get raises, whether it be from Panda or anyone else. I don't know what's going to happen in a year or two. Nobody does. This is not the type of music I want for this top. Funny, but not. I really just want to try to make this work as best as I can. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but this is like definitely my priority right now. I do really like this game. The community's done a lot for me in a lot of ways. I want to kind of give back to it however I can, and that means like helping out newer players. So be it. It's not easy, but you know, life's never easy. I think life would be boring if it was easy.